VAR in or out, Aston Villa smash Brighton at home, Manchester City finally lose a game of football, unsurprisingly Man United still can't win a game of football, and Luton Town finally get their first win of the season.
You've got all that to look forward to on today's episode of the Football Fellowship podcast. Welcome back, everyone. My name is Toby, and that was Mev with a lovely little intro and a nice teaser in today's episode.
Thank you very much, Tobes. It's been a week since we recorded. How have you been?
Yeah, all good, thanks. All good. Had the Carabao Cup midweek to watch, had the Prem to watch this week, and it's been a good one. How about yourself?
Yeah, it's been alright. Lots of football content to enjoy. Went out for dinner with the family on Saturday night, which is lovely.
Very nice.
But yeah, we should probably get straight into football because there's lots to talk about. When another week, another controversies, more goals. And the Premier League just keeps on giving. I think before we get into it, it's been a fantastic first 7 games of the season so far. I mean, every week there seems to be something to talk about. I've been really enjoying it, actually.
Yeah, it feels like, in a weird way, it feels like it's only been 1 or 2 sort of game weeks when you have all that hype at the start of the season. I feel like that's carried on for it's like 2 months now into the season, which is crazy. And I can't wait to just keep going. I know we've got the international break in a couple of weeks, but I feel like if the momentum and the hype of all these games delivering carries on into Christmas, when there's going to be like 10 games a week, it's going to be such a good season, hopefully.
Yes, and you should be subscribed to us on YouTube and give us 5 stars on Spotify because we will be covering all of those games throughout the season, whether it's midweek or on the weekend. We'll be there for all of them. But should we start off with the game, or maybe I don't even know how to describe it, the situation of the moment, which is Spurs 2, Liverpool 1. And we should probably start off with the VAR controversial takes rather than the match.
Get it out of the way. Get it out of the way.
Okay, so let's start off with the first one. Curtis Jones getting sent off. First tackle on Basuma. What did you think of that?
I think I suppose I'm not really a neutral being an Arsenal fan, but as a neutral, I think it was harsh. I understood when the ref saw the picture of the way his foot was and maybe the height of it, but I think if you saw it in real time, his foot wasn't actually that high when he first made for the tackle. It wasn't over the top of the ball. It was round the side of the ball and then over the top, and it just made it look way worse than it was. I think a yellow's probably fair because it was a bit rash. But for me, not red at all, really.
What do you make of the fact that when the referee went over to the monitor, the first thing he saw was the still of the impact? Do you think that was the correct thing to do, or do you think that VAR shouldn't be showing that still and they should be showing the game in real-time motion?
I think it should be showing it in real time is the first thing they should see, and it probably should maybe be the only thing they see until they request for more. I think if they first see a slow-mo or a still, it's not how the tackle was actually made. You can take a lot of tackles out of the context of the situation that they're in and make them look way worse. The same with sort of handballs. If you show a player's hand hitting it, but you don't see where it's kicked from before, especially when it's so close, it can make it look like a definite handball. And I think this was the case with this foul. I think as soon as he saw that foot high, but not how the foot got there, it takes away the context that is important that it should have been a yellow.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I will also say that I defend the referee, the on-field referee, in that decision, because I think that even if he gave that as a red, I wouldn't complain too much because of where it did impact Basuma when Jones went over the top of the ball. I think it's one where it's not a clear and obvious error, which is my issue with it. If the on-field ref gives it as a red, you keep it like that. If he gives it as yellow on-field, you keep it as that as well. And I don't think that VAR should have interrupted in whichever situation it was. And that was my issue with that one especially, because the referee isn't going to go to the monitor and then disagree with the VAR official. He's going to side with it because he thinks that he's made a mistake and therefore he's going to change the decision.
Yeah, they're going to be called over for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's my point on that. And Liverpool have seemingly decided to appeal it. We'll see what happens. I don't think after all the controversies that happened in that game that the FA is then going to go, do you know what, actually, we're going to decline your rejection of the card, and we're also going to give you an extra ban for wasting our time. Yeah. I don't think they'll be doing that. I don't think they have the balls to do that.
Just pour more petrol on the fire that there already is.
Because the next decision was a massive one, and the main one that I think that people are talking about, and that's obviously Luis Diaz being onside for the goal which was given offside on the pitch, and then VAR looked at it, maybe?
Yeah.
And they decided to agree with the on-field decision, which was a bit of a mess.
Yeah, they put it down to human error, didn't they, is what they said. that was human error in... Was that human error as in terms of that they gave it straight away, or was that human error in the procedure of drawing the lines and giving the offside that it was?
So what happened was we didn't see the lines, but they said afterwards, the PGMOL, that the VAR official did draw the lines, but that we didn't get to see them. But they believed that Luis Diaz was onside, but they believed that on the pitch that he was given onside, which is why...
Right, so the button that was pressed of agree decision or whatever.
Yeah, so they said check
Right.
complete, so as in the on-field decision stood, but they believed the on-field decision to be the goal was standing, but it didn't. And then all of a sudden the match is carried on, and everyone's like, hang on a minute, he's onside. What's going on? Because I'm not sure if you saw it live, but all the stills on Twitter were like, he's onside, he's onside, he's onside. And then halftime they come out with a statement saying, sorry, we got that wrong.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh God, it was awful.
It's such a difficult one as well, because I feel like the PGMOL saying it's a human error, I know it's difficult because they're trying to protect the system of VAR, and I don't think it's VAR as the concept that has a problem with football in this country. It's the way it's implemented at times, and I feel like saying it's human error kind of throws one person's mistake under the bus when there should be better procedures for how the VAR is run for that not even to be possible. I think if all it takes is one button to say, oh, check complete is done, and not be able to sort of have a window of being like, oh, right, we've just checked again, we didn't realise what the onside decision was, the on-field decision was, let's go back and redo it, is where the error was not because one person pressed a button or read the game wrong. There should be procedures in place that don't allow a human error that bad in a game, because so much rides on the Premier League games in terms of sort of like, even if you're talking like from an economic point of view, like the financials of the game and of the clubs, there's so much at stake, as well as the fans and the players, and the amount that rides on each game in the Premier League should have a better system of VAR to be set up. Because I love VAR, and when it works amazingly, but clearly there is something procedural going wrong, and I think saying it's just a human error is a little bit of a cop-out.
Yeah, I think the communication between the VAR referee and the on-field referee needs to be clearer. I think that just a very simple check complete, Luis Diaz onside. It's saying just check complete is just too vague a response. And that's the thing, it's too vague, there's ambiguity on it, and you just need to have clear and concise instructions. And I think like other industries such as healthcare and in pilots, when they their communications, I don't know if you ever watched the film Sully.
I haven't. But
No.
is that a Tom Hanks one?
Yeah, the Tom Hanks one, when they lost both their engines, they land on the Hudson, but just seeing the communication between them, you need something a bit more clearer than just check complete. Because what are you checking?
Yeah.
And what is the result of your check? So therefore, just by implementing that, I think that can make a difference. The reason why I'm quite annoyed with the offside one is because of the fact that in a game which has ambiguity and you're not going to get all the decisions 100% right all the time, offsides has been clear and has been effective because of the fact that it is black and white, and wherever on the body that you decide to draw the lines, whether it's the armpit or the foot, the hand, the head, wherever, if it's past the last defender, it's offside. And there is a line, and it is black and white, and it's obvious, and we've all accepted that. A bit like goal line technology, it's either in the back of the net or it's not. But the fact that now there's an error with offside, you saw it later on in the following day against Nottingham Forest versus Brentford. Every decision was being scrutinised by the commentators, by the fans. The fans would give it the oh, and we're kind of just waiting for them to have a mistake, because you expect that. And that's my issue, is just, where's the trust? I don't trust the officials. I don't trust them to come out next week and do a better job than they did. And I just don't think it's a good look for the league as a whole, because, like I said, there is a lot on the line. Liverpool have gone close with Manchester City in title races where they've lost out on goal difference, a Premier League title, and they've lost by 1 point, a Premier League title. So all these points add up, and they will mean something later on in the season. So to say, no, we're sorry now, maybe it's good of them to put their hands up forward, but is that enough? I'm not sure. I want to see the repercussions of, okay, so this is what we've learned from it, and this is what we're going to do going forward, which is going to change, right? X official is now being retrained, which means that he's going to be better the next time he officiates a match. That's fine. Or we have realized that we've made an error in this, and therefore the way we implement VAR is going to change going forward, because that will improve the results of VAR for all football matches going forward. I want to see that. I don't want the same thing week in, week out.
Yeah, you don't want apologies. You want measures put in place so that they don't have to apologise again, basically.
Yeah.
Which is, I completely agree with.
And then we should talk about Diogo Jota
the
getting
third
sent
one.
off. Yes.
This one, for me, the first foul I don't think was a yellow card.
I
I'm not
agree.
even sure if it was a foul. He almost slowed down, actually, I think, when, was it Basuma? The first
Udogie, definitely Udogie.
He almost slowed down to make sure that he didn't contact him, and I think it was just the way Udogie was running, just got the tiniest clip on Jota's knee and then tripped. It made him trip and he fell over. I think it probably was a foul, but there was absolutely no intention for me from Jota to stop like a counter, to do a tactical foul at all. And I think that was a really, really poor decision from the ref. I think if he's seen that contact, he must have seen Jota's body language and the clear way that he was not attempting to foul him. Saying that, however, I think Jota getting that second yellow card was absolutely ridiculous from Jota. He is on a yellow card in a game where you're down to 10 men, and there was no need to do that challenge. He had a little bit of space. I can't remember exactly who the player was. It was Udogie again. It was Udogie again. He did have a little bit of space, but there was just no need to do a foul like that and get yourself sent off and go down to 9 men, because you probably had a lot more chance to hold on and see out the point. And I think for me that decision is almost irrelevant, because I think if he's on a yellow card, fine, he's on a yellow card. But it was Jota's decision to make that stupid second foul, and that was 100% a second yellow and a red card.
Yeah, I actually completely agree on that. I'm not going to repeat any of the points. I agree on both, and I think it was silly. But Liverpool did do well for, when they were at 10 men, when they were at 9 men. It looked like, they could get something out of it. We should probably talk about the actual football itself now, very briefly. But I actually thought when both teams had 11 men, I actually thought Spurs were the better team.
Yeah, they had Richarlison playing on the left wing this game, and Son kept up front, which was interesting. I think that shows it's going to be Postecoglou's tactic for the season to keep Son at that striker. He's been playing really well recently. Him, Maddison and Kulusevski have all had really good link-ups, and on that first goal from Son, it was Maddison, Richarlison and Son who all combined really nicely for it was a simple move in principle, out to the left and then into the box for a nice finish, but they made it look simple by the way they were moving and the way they were playing.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, I think he's had a fantastic season so far, but Yves Bissouma, he dispossessed, I think it was Dominic Szoboszlai on the counter-attack, and he won that ball back and then shielded the ball off him and McAllister, and then gone past both of them to make that space and find Maddison as well. I think he had a fantastic game, and he's been, I think maybe, player of the season so far. I think that's maybe Bissouma.
What, for the whole Prem?
For the whole Prem. I think he's been
very good.
that good. And because it's in my notes, I've got him written down like 4 or 5 times already, because he was just everywhere. And I think, just doing that dirty work and helping out your team when you can. I mean, I think without him, Spurs would be lost this season, because he's been so pivotal for them in the defensive midfielder role. But yeah, winning the ball back for Maddison. And then, they get their first goal, and it's a lapse in concentration from Liverpool, especially from Gomez at right back, because there's no threat at all whatsoever until that ball is played, and there's a massive gap between Gomez and Matip at right back and right centre back, which I think Gomez needs to be a bit closer into Matip. Let the ball go to Richarlison, and then as the ball makes its way to Richarlison, then you try to close him down. But I thought it was really poor. And then Liverpool do actually equalise against all the odds.
Yeah, through Cody Gakpo, who was interesting. He was actually even starting this game. You probably would have expected Nunez, but I suppose there must have been something in Klopp's thinking to play Gakpo. Possibly he's going to be a better presser, which is going to be good, especially the way that Spurs are playing, that they are building up from the back and building quickly. I think that might be something where Nunez would be probably easier to pass around. Gakpo's quite an intelligent presser. He's got those curved runs that you need as a striker to try and stop them playing out from the back. And as well as him being able to drop into midfield is a big support with Spurs' midfield 3 playing so well as they are this season. And he was rewarded with a goal. It was a nice finish, and I think to have that option for Liverpool to either go Nunez or Gakpo and both to deliver different things whilst also being able to score an assist is a big asset for them.
Yeah, it really is. It's just a shame he got injured while scoring, because the way he took that goal, he was kind of turning, and I think his right knee buckled or something, and he didn't even celebrate. He was just going down on the floor, which is such a shame. because he's been so crucial. And now with Diogo Jota's 1 match suspension at the very minimum, it looks like Liverpool will have to have a front three of Salah, Nunes, and Diaz, which I'm not entirely against because I think that's the best front three anyway. But it just reduces the options on the bench now, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
But then and Liverpool hold out with 9 men really well, and I think it's actually a really encouraging and positive performance because after the game, a lot of Liverpool fans were obviously rightly angry with the VAR officials, but I think also incredibly proud of the team because of the performance they put in with 9 men to hold out for as long as they did, and obviously to lose the way they did with the Joel Matip own goal. It was incredibly unfortunate, but I think Spurs in the end did deserve it.
Yeah, I think probably on the balance of the game, they had double the amount of shots of Liverpool, 65% possession, and a greater XG. And I think it's so unfortunate for Matip because he's just trying to clear it, and it's just the way it bounces and comes off his shin. There wasn't really much he could probably do. Maybe try and wrap his foot around it a little bit more. But I think it was actually the build-up from Tottenham was where the defence went wrong. It was allowing Pedro Porro to make that run round. Was he the one who got the assist for the Matip goal? There was just that slight lapse of concentration, and I think too many players got sucked in, and I think Spurs were waiting for that for the last 20 minutes of the game, and that was the first time they got a pass into an overlap, and Porro and it wasn't an easy pass because the box was absolutely crowded. Liverpool were marking well in the box, and obviously it went to Matip in the end. But I think allowing that sort of pass or that area to be free for Porro to run in and then to pass was just disappointing. And it was just one tiny little moment. And even then it was covered by Matip, and then it was just unlucky the way it went in. So yeah, it was a good, solid display from Liverpool at the end with 9 men, which is crazy. Yeah. But as you say, on the whole, Spurs probably did deserve it. It was just a shame the way it came in the last second again against Liverpool.
Yeah, but I think from the Liverpool perspective, it's right because of how the game unfolded with everything going on. I think if anything, it's galvanised the players and the team even more. And I think going to the next game, they've got Brighton Hove Albion away, which is a lovely transition to Aston Villa 6, Brighton 1, who got absolutely thumped this week. And not a result I expected, considering I thought this was going to be a very close affair between two teams who are in Europe, got fantastic managers, fantastic ways of playing. I thought it was going to be a lot closer, but Aston Villa absolutely destroyed Brighton on the day, didn't they?
Yeah, they really did. It was just the midfield, I think, is where it lost it for Brighton at the weekend. It was Gilmour and Hinshelwood making his Premier League debut, which was a big risk from De Zerbi to put out an 18-year-old against a Villa side who have been playing really well and are probably their closest rivals probably in league position this season, you would say.
Talk about a baptism of fire.
Yeah, and they just really got dominated there. Douglas Luiz and Kamara and McGinn and Diaby dropping in and winning the ball. They just got absolutely suffocated, and every time Villa were winning that ball and breaking, it was just a 4v4 almost for most of their goals. Brighton trying to press on and play the way that they do, playing high, keeping possession high in the Villa half, but they just gave that ball away in the midfield so many times, and it was just not an easy run-in for Villa. But when you're Watkins, Diaby and McGinn all running in against the Brighton back four with no midfield cover, that's just ideal, and it just paid off, and they were so clinical when they got in as well.
Yeah, and I think a lot of credit to Unai Emery in the way he set up Aston Villa going into this game, because the fact that it was Watkins and Diaby almost like as a two, and then the fullbacks of Digne and Cash were so high up on the pitch, really isolating Brighton's fullbacks. And then you saw for the first goal and the fact that it was Matty Cash against Matoma. I think it was poor defending by Matoma to lose Cash knowing he was there in the first place. I think then Lewis Dunk leaves everyone on side because he's a yard further back than everyone else. And then Watkins just beats everyone to the ball in the box. So, credit to them because they absolutely knew how to play against Brighton, and it's going to be a blueprint that other teams are going to look at and go, right, we've struggled against Brighton, we're going to be doing that as well.
Yeah.
So it's going to be asked some questions of De Zerbi going forward, which I think is really, really interesting. But it was a fantastic performance by Aston Villa. It can't really be overstated how good a performance it was. I do think Brighton did cause some of their own problems. I think for the second goal, Veltman had a sloppy pass. I think for the third one, I think March loses the ball very easily. Maybe a question mark over it's a foul. For the fourth one, Gilmour gets dispossessed. I mean, Aston Villa were just pressing Brighton all over the pitch, so high up. And Brighton, for a team who are normally quite calm and composed on the ball, looked like they had no time whatsoever.
Yeah, their press resistance was almost completely gone this game. I think probably they really miss someone like Pascal Gross, who
Yeah.
keeps that ball from them so well, but also wins it back. And that Villa press was led by Ollie Watkins, who just had one of the best performances we've seen this season from a player. 3 goals, 2 assists, 41 touches, 6 shots, 2 out of 3 dribbles, 5 key passes, 3 out of 5 ground duels. Just an absolute complete performance. He was really leading the line, and he looked like the one. They were all looking to him every time he was getting the ball. Every time they had the ball, they were looking for him to pass to. And he just scored some, not the goals themselves are really nice, but the way he got himself into those positions, I think, was really key. And that's something we've seen from Watkins for the past few seasons. And today he was really clinical, finished his chances when needed. And that's an aspect of his game we sort of keep thinking season on season. Is he going to get 20 plus goals, or is he going to be still hovering around that 13, 14 goal mark? And if he can put a performance in like every week, taking his chances, really leading the line as Villa's main man, then he could be sort of the striker that maybe we're sort of waiting to see, because everyone knows he has that movement and that potential.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. The camera panned to Gareth Southgate in the stands at one point, and you really think to yourself that, with Dominic Calvert-Lewin continuously finding injuries, with Ivan Toney with his ban for his betting at the moment, it's really behind Harry Kane. It's Callum Wilson and himself for that England spot. I know Tammy Abraham's actually out injured as well. So there's not very many options in the forward line, and the likes of maybe Marcus Rashford could play up front for England, and there's a few other options, but out and out strikers, goal scorers, and with the movement that he's been showing, and he's finally found his feet in terms of goal scoring as well. Last week getting one against Chelsea, and now this week getting a hat trick. He's really coming on, and it'd be really interesting to see how he goes on throughout the season, how many goals he can get, because for Aston Villa it's a big club, and getting 2 hat tricks I think this season. I think one was in the cup competition as well.
Yeah, in the Europa League.
In the Europa League.
Was it conference qualifier?
Conference qualifier, yeah. That was it. Yeah. To already get 2 hat tricks this season so far, I'm just gutted I didn't have him in my fantasy football team.
Yeah, what was he get? 23 points.
Oh, it is far too many. I'm trying to find a way to bring him into my team at the moment.
Yeah, I wish I could have made a bit more cash and took out Nicholas Jackson, who I took out, and I brought in Awani from Forest, which he blanked. So
it's all right. We all make these bad decisions, but basically never count against Ollie Watkins.
No.
Yeah. Brighton going forward, they've now conceded in their last 11 games, I think. They lost midweek against AEK Athens. They now got thumped by Aston Villa, got Europa League again midweek, and then Liverpool on the weekend. Things are still good, things are still positive, but maybe the results aren't going exactly how Brighton fans expected.
Yeah, they're getting the wins, but I think a lot of Brighton fans would want to see a 1-0, 2-0 win. I think just to think that they have that solidity. I think winning sort of those 3-1s, 4-1s is great, and they really good scoring goals, but so many Brighton fans still have question marks over their defensive capabilities. I just think that's the risk, the way that Brighton play with De Zerbi. It's still intentionally sucking in the press and playing around it, which is really high risk, high reward football, because once you beat that press, they are getting really good chances still in scoring, and they still had really good chances this game. I think they actually probably almost started, the second half, the much better side. They had a lot more. They had a lot of chances there. They actually had an XG that was better than Aston Villa's on the day.
Really? I didn't see that.
So they were still creating really good chances. Yeah. But they just, when you concede 6 goals, there's no way you're going to be able to score more in this occasion.
Yeah.
But going forward, I think Brighton will be fine. This is just something they can learn on, and hope it will probably end up making them a better team, which is such a strange thing to say when a side loses 6-1. But it's games like this where the players will learn a lot from it.
Don't tell that to Sheffield United fans. Do you think their midfield needs a bit more reinforcement, or do you think losing McAllister, losing Caicedo, obviously they've replaced them, but do you think that that quality isn't quite there yet in that Brighton squad?
I think so. I think it is their weakest area, is their midfield. I think Pascal Gross is so pivotal to them, and has been for the last 3 seasons, that he is such a big loss. And with McAllister and Caicedo gone, they've now essentially completely lost that. Gilmore's played pretty well this season. I think he's stepped up. But I think the person sitting alongside him, whether that's Hinshelwood or Dahoud, or I think Milner's also actually injured at the moment, there's not really much that they can do. They could definitely do with some reinforcements in January. just to see out if they are getting out of the group in Europa. They will need some more cover in that midfield area, definitely.
Yeah. But also shout out to Ansu Fati, who got his first Brighton goal. Obviously, he's been injured for Barcelona for a couple of seasons now. Finally made that move, which seemed to be a good move for his career. Move into a flashy, big European club, move into a team where he's going to get game time and hopefully learn the system and improve his quality. So good to see he was on the score sheet. But next, moving on to our third game so far. So it's Wolverhampton Wanderers 2, Manchester City 1. And Manchester City finally lose a game of football. Breaking news.
We need like a party popper here. Yeah, just celebrate it, because they don't come very often.
Yeah, and I just want to make it clear, like, we say this every week, oh, Man City win again, it's really boring. And I know we're celebrating the fact that they lost, but I think it's good for the rest of the league that Man City just don't run away with it every single time. And because they have started really well, which they haven't done in the last few seasons. So there was kind of a fear that, if they start off really well, what's it going to look like come December? What's it going to look like March? Is the league going to be over, done and dusted? What's the point of everyone else trying? But Wolves actually gave them a really good fight, and, they deserved to win on the day.
They really did. I think City were really poor this game. I think it's the worst they've played this season by far, not just because of the result. I think if they would have come back after being 1-0 and won it 2-1, scraped to win, it still would have been their worst performance. I think you could really tell in this game that they have players out. I think they really missed Rodri. There was no like build up. I think when players were coming in and looking for the pass, it was coming in and then it was a bit of a delay. Whereas Rodri is straight away, knows where he's going. And I think we saw Diaz actually come up quite a lot in this game and sort of try and pull the strings. Akanji as well, they were looking to as someone to do it. Obviously, they're inverting centre back. And I think Kovacic and Mateus Nunes had a really, really poor first half, and they were eventually subbed off for Bob and Phillips.
Yeah, that man Bob.
Shout out Bob.
Yeah. No, but on a serious note, I do completely agree. I was really interested to see the lineup before the game started because of the fact that, and Rodri's not going to be available because of the suspension. So De Bruyne is out injured as well. Who's going to be starting there? Because obviously all this in mind with the Arsenal fixture coming up next weekend, you want to see who's going to play there. And I saw Kovacic there, and it didn't fill me with a bunch of confidence, but I know the qualities of Kovacic, so I know that on his day, if he's purring, that, he could be perfectly fine in that role. But it's the fact that him, alongside Mateus Nunes, who, funny enough, coming up against his former club so early on in the season after he left was, I think, a bit ironic, especially the fact that they lost as well. But our midfield could not hold it down. They couldn't hold anything down, really. And I think credit to Wolverhampton Wanderers, who they knew that and they exploited it really well following Gary O'Neill's tactics. And there's actually Kovacic who lost the ball as he tried to play a pass in the midfield for the first goal and actually hit Phil Foden. And then Pedro Neto picked it up, bodied Foden, then ran past Ake as well as he made a chance which he couldn't get anywhere near. And then Diaz with the own goal in the end. And credit to Wolves because, Man City weren't creating much at all. They didn't really penetrate Wolves' defence that much, and Wolves got the lead. And Pedro Neto, what a fantastic start of the season he's having.
Yeah, I think it was that midfield where City were missing out that gave Pedro Neto a lot of space, especially to get that first goal. I think a lot of players in City were sucking into the midfield because they knew there wasn't really much being created from there. So a lot of players being drawn in to try and pick up where your sort of Rodri's, your Bernardo Silvas, your Kevin De Bruyne's were missing in this game. And it almost was a bit naive from City to leave that much space out wide, and it happened for both of the goals. In the end, it was Pedro Neto making that amazing run, as well as Semedo in the second half making a really good run down the wide areas. I think they thought, right, we need to sort of bring all our players into the midfield, we've got to win, we've got to attack, and just completely left those wide areas exposed where Wolves hurt them. And they only really had 2 chances all game, Wolves, but they were 2 good chances, and that was all they needed to win, because City, an XG of less than 1 in this game, only 9 shots inside the box, which for the City side against what you would think is maybe not the best Wolves side that we've seen, was a really poor showing for them. That second goal I thought was really nice from Wolves. Semedo making the run, was found really nicely, pulled into Mateus Cunha, who I could imagine a lot of players there their eyes would have lit up even though he had his back to goal to try and swivel and shoot, but he saw Hwang over his shoulder, laid it off, and it was an easy tap in for him, which was a really, really nice goal for them, I thought.
Yeah, I thought it was a fantastic goal for them. I think even before that, I think the fact that Jose Sarr had the ball at his feet and he could have gone and picked it up, but decided not to. It's okay, I see Max Kilman in space on my right hand side, passed it to him, and then Max Kilman just stroll up the field as if nothing, no one was pressing him, no one was causing him any trouble, and City just dropped off. I thought it was quite interesting considering at the moment in time it was 1-1, and then no one marked Semedo's run at all. He just lovely burst of acceleration down that right hand side, and then no one picked him up at all. And I just thought it was a bit strange for Man City, considering they wanted to win the game. You know, I mean, that's very strange and very bizarre. And I just think that, at the moment in time, without Guardiola on the sidelines, because he picked up 3 yellow cards already.
Yeah, that is crazy.
I had no idea that that was even a rule going into the season. And the fact that he's picked up 3 is really poor from him as well, because his side could have used him on the touchline as well. But I just think Wolves, I mean, you got to take your chances. You got to hurt Man City when they give you those chances, because they're not going to give you too many. And that front 3, I really like the look of it now. The Hwang, Pedro Neto, and Cunha. I mean, they're not going to score 10 plus goals each, but I think that between them and the likes of Klasic off the bench, I think they've got enough about them, Wolves, that they're going to be all right this year, especially with Gary O'Neill. And this is a stark contrast to where they were like before the ball was kicked this season, with just losing Lopetegui. Gary O'Neill comes in, everyone's questioning Wolves. They haven't invested the money in the players that they've lost. And what a turnaround it's been.
Yeah, well, we predicted them to get relegated in our combined prediction video. We did, which is understandable because the way the club were in financial difficulties, there was so much conjecture about what was going to happen with Wolves. Are they going to keep their manager? Are they going to have to get rid of loads of players? They obviously offloaded Ruben Neves, who's been one of their best players for the last 4 or 5 seasons now. And they have I think they've got the best out of their players so far this season.
Absolutely.
Matheus Cunha is someone who I see so much potential in him. And I think if he keeps playing this way, he could be playing for a lot of the big clubs sort of in Europe. I think he is so good, and he's so like energetic and exciting. He's so he just picks up the ball and just runs. And I think he just does it like fearlessly a lot of the time, which is really good. Neto and Hwang as well. I think they've got to sort of keep that front 3 going forward, because it looked like they combined really well, looked really dangerous. And then their midfield and defence behind them as well is starting to get a good shape. I mean, if you can keep Haaland as quiet as he was in this weekend, you can do that with any other player in the league as well.
Yeah, I mean, credit to Ballon d'Or Dawson, because he had a phenomenal performance at the back. And it was like an old school centre-half performance where you just mark the main man, and he completely left space at times in the middle of the Wolverhampton Wanderers defence, because he was just like, no, lads, there's 3 of us at centre-back here. One of you fell into space. I've got Haaland, and I'm not going to let him get a goal today, because he had an XG of 0.06 Haaland in this game, one of his lowest ever since he's joined the Premier League. And is that a shot? I don't even know.
I think he had 1 shot the whole game, which would have been that one.
Yeah, because I don't know how aware you have a shot that the XG is 0.06, especially if you're Haaland and you're only taking shots in the box. But I think like even early on in the game, I think Kovacic played a ball to the left-hand side where Matheus Nunes was. Nunes crossed it along, and I thought this had happened, but Dawson just got the tiniest of touches with his toes, and in particular away from Haaland, and that could have been a goal very early on, opened the floodgates, and Wolves could have had no chance in this game. But I thought he marked him really, really well. And him, Kilman, and I think it was Totti Gomez at the back, they all did a superb job, the whole Wolverhampton side, and I think Wolves can be really proud of that performance today, because you don't expect to get 3 points against City, but when you do, celebrate it.
Speaking of City, with their injuries and not playing as well this week as we would have thought, massive game, Arsenal next week. Mm-hmm. What do you think going into that game from the City side?
Is it at the Emirates?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
It's at... Where did we were away we were both away this week, so I'm not actually too sure, to be honest.
I think
it might be at the Emirates.
I feel like it's at the Emirates.
Let me do a fact check now while you talk.
Yeah, so I'm going to say that it's not the best preparation going into the game when you lose, but at least with the Champions League midweek, at least they've got a chance to respond and get back into that winning form before they play Arsenal. But I actually think they go into the game now with their injuries and now losing to Wolves as not the favourites in that game. I think Arsenal are the favourites.
It is at the Emirates.
It is at the Emirates. And at the Emirates, and the way that Arsenal are playing, I think Man City just need to make sure that they get at least a point. They don't let Arsenal get their hopes up too much, because Arsenal beat them in the Community Shield. You don't want them to beat you in the league as well, and then all of a sudden they have the confidence now to think, right, we're in this. We can do this. We can beat Man City on their day, and then they can go on a run as well. I don't worry for City because I know how much of a juggernaut they can be. But I do look at it as a very pivotal moment just before the international break because if City lose, I think they can draw. I think that's fine. But if they lose, I think initiative Arsenal.
I'm just so annoyed the injuries that we have ourselves as well, because we haven't got our sort of starting front three, that we're just missing Martinelli and Trossard. I think if we would have had those, I would have gone into this game so confident. But saying that, I don't think they're going to play as badly as they did this week. I don't think they're even going to have the same starting 11 by any stretch. I think Pep is going to change a lot. He's going to take from this game, take out. So I don't think we're going to see probably Nunez or Kovacic start against Arsenal. He's going to do some sort of weird tweak.
The question is it going to be Phillips?
That's the thing. Is it going to be Bob? Because he has been playing really well.
I can't take him seriously.
He has been playing really well. And a lot of Man City fans have been raving about him before at the start of the season as well, that they were hoping he was going to get minutes.
Arsenal away though, I'm not sure.
It's going to be I'm so excited. I know it's only Monday at the moment, but I literally cannot wait for the weekend again because it's going to be such a good game, especially when it's at the Emirates, because I feel like the atmosphere, even the talk about the atmosphere at the Emirates has completely changed the last 2 seasons. I think people are saying it's now actually one of like the best atmospheres in the league. Whether that's because obviously now we're winning and playing well, it's completely different to how it was sort of 5 years ago. People trying to get managers out, the club sort of in disarray. But
were you ever? Hang on, let's talk about that. We're talking next game, which goes perfectly into Bournemouth 0, Arsenal 4. So we're talking about Arsenal now properly. Were you ever Arteta out?
No, I was never Arteta.
You were never Arteta out.
I think that's such a problem with so many of the big clubs of not giving a manager time because of the pressures that being a big club has. And I think Arteta, it was clear from those first 3 games that we lost against Brentford, City and Chelsea in that season, where a lot of people were calling him out.
Oh yeah.
Brentford, it was their first game in the Prem, we lost 2-0. City, I can't remember the exact score, and Chelsea, I remember Lukaku.
Oh, you lost 2-0.
Yeah.
And I remember because Lukaku had just joined Chelsea after, where was he before? Inter Milan.
Yep.
Yeah, and then he was shaking everyone's hand and it was like, what's he doing? As if like the big boss, he just owns Arsenal football players. And I remember that's just hilarious. Of just like Arsenal players just getting owned all over.
But I remember in those 3 games, we were bottom of the league. And people were saying, Arteta out, this is unacceptable. But even in those games, I remember seeing that there was a clear play style and he was clearly playing the right players and starting to bring in the right players, and it was something I think we had to stick with, and it did pay off long term. I think with Emery it was a different story, even though when we were playing well and winning, it wasn't the style that would suit a club with ambition as much as Arsenal. I think he much more suits maybe somewhere
Villa.
Yeah, a Villa.
He's perfect for Villa,
where he can play really good, nice attacking football against sort of the lower, weaker sides, but against the top sides he will sit back as well. Yeah. I think he has that good combination. But for Arsenal and Arteta, it's been such a good partnership of club and manager. It's just worked really well.
Yeah, I mean, it always helps when a manager's played at a club before and he knows everyone at the club and knows how you want to play as well. But yeah, Arsenal absolutely demolished Bournemouth. I mean, we've talked about Arsenal for a while now without even talking about the game. But 2 penalty decisions in this game. For me, they were both penalties, I think. Was it Nketiah that went down for the first one on Max Aarons? I think that was a shown call penalty. I think Ryan Christie, who took down Odegaard for the 3rd goal. Again, he didn't get any of the ball. I think that's a clear penalty. But I want to talk about that man Havertz gets a goal. And I really liked what I saw from the players, the fans, the manager, and the celebrations. What did you make of it? Because he has struggled so far.
Yeah, he has struggled, I think, to adapt to the play style and maybe the intensity that we play at. I think off the ball, he's been brilliant. I think he's been one of our best off the ball midfielders. I think he has. He's always had that. He's always had that at Chelsea, being a really good presser, really clever positioning in terms of off the ball, and his defensive numbers have been great so far this season, especially playing as more of a number 8, which you need that part of the game as well. I think it's just been in possession. He's looked a little bit slow, a little bit. What's the word? Not confident. He's been safe with a lot of his passes and stuff. He hasn't really sort of been in a lot of progressive carries and a lot of progressive passes. And probably a lot of that is down to confidence, which hopefully this penalty will give him, because it was a really well taken penalty. He had another good game against Bournemouth. Again, nothing incredible. I don't think he needs goals and assists. People always love to talk about that, like on Twitter and fans and stuff, saying, "Oh, he's only got 1 goal, no assist, blah 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 blah." For me, in that left number 8 position, that doesn't matter too much to me. I just want to see him get more involved when we have the ball, and if he can reach that with the way he's been playing off the ball, I think he's gonna slowly probably fit into the system well.
Yeah, I think people have been measuring him by the wrong metrics as well. I think when I rewatched Match of the Day, the fact that Alan Shearer and Micah Richards were talking about his goal and assist and the shot conversion rate over the last 4 seasons, I think that was fine while he's at Chelsea, but at Arsenal he's now not doing that role. So therefore you can't judge him by purely goals and assists. You've got to judge him by midfield metrics. And I just thought it was a complete, just not misinformation, but like misrepresenting who Havertz is now this season and the new role that he's going to be performing. Would you start him against Man City then on the weekend?
Well, it's either going to be him or Fabio Vieira, you would imagine. Or Smith Rowe. It could also be Smith Rowe. It won't be Smith Rowe. It won't be Smith Rowe, but that is one of our options.
Yeah.
I think he will start against City. I think it's good to have his height. I think it's good to have his pressing, especially if City are playing out from the back. I think he is the best fit for that role against City, and he brings us a lot more solidity than a Fabio Vieira would, who would maybe be better against sort of a lower block team who can be more progressive. But I think Havertz should be starting against City, and I imagine he will. It'll probably be Rice, Havertz, and Odegaard, assuming that they all get a bit of a rest in the Champions League away at Lens.
Yeah, I think that, to be fair, that's not going to be an easy fixture away to Lens after the performance they put out in League One last year. But yeah, Bournemouth, Iraola still without a win in the league, now in the relegation zone after Luton won as well. And it's worrying signs for Bournemouth because of the fact that the international break is after this weekend. So there is a 2-week period in which, there's going to be some change happening. And I think that potentially there might be some at Bournemouth, which I'm not very happy to be talking about because I think that Iraola is a fantastic manager. But I think just the performances that Bournemouth have put in have not been up to standard so far this season. And I think they've got a massive game away to Goodison Park against Everton. That could really, if they don't win there, I think that could be it for Iraola, which is a shame.
Possibly. It's getting to that point. I think maybe sort of he will have another 3 or 4 games as a minimum to start getting some points because they have looked good in moments. And again, against Arsenal, they did look okay in moments. They had a few good moves. They do keep the ball so well, but they just really struggled to get the ball into the box, I think, is where they are missing it, that final pass. And I think defensively as well, they just do not look good a lot of the time for Arsenal. It was really easy. I don't really have many notes for the Arsenal game, to be honest. I watched most of it and it was just easy. I think they didn't look like they were going to score. They kept the ball well in the middle. They had a good shape, but it was in like first and second gear for Arsenal for most of the game. I'm not sure what needs to change for Bournemouth, I think it's the same with quite a few teams at the moment, actually. Sort of your Burnley, we're talking about the same, that they need to sacrifice a bit of their play style to start being more direct and getting some more points, because they do have that option as well with Solanke and someone like Brooks, who's quick. They can hit the channels if they need to, hit it long. Solanke they can hit it up to and he can hold it up, and then they can attack with a bit more speed. I think maybe that's also what they're missing. And it's going to be, like you say, these games against Everton. If that was a home game for Bournemouth against Everton, I'd say that's the time when you can play your football, try and play against Everton, who'll probably be a low block away from home. But I think an away game against Everton, that's not an easy fixture, and especially at the bottom half of the league, that's a massive fixture, and one they probably need to win.
They do.
We're actually going to have a stoppage in play there, lads. There's a VAR check has been called on the podcast, so we're taking it to our video assistant referees in the podcast studio, and they are saying the verdict is quiz time. Come on, finally we've got the decision right. It is definitely quiz time. There's no dodgy decisions here.
No, not here.
Yeah. We know how to check things over and make sure we are on schedule. So 16-13 lead for yourself, Mev.
Yeah, I'm very proud of that, making a comeback. I didn't expect it from myself, honestly. I didn't know I had it in me. But, sometimes the underdog wins in football.
Yep.
So clearly, got to keep that rolling.
Yeah. What is it, 4-pointer for you last week?
Oh, I don't remember.
I think it was 4 for you and 3 for me. So it's pretty. Either we've made it easier or we've got better.
We have definitely made it easier. I think what's helped is the fact that we've decided to go for teams in England as well.
Yeah.
Because the teams international sometimes is a bit difficult.
That can be tough.
And you need to warm your way into those.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't want to give anything away, but maybe that's a little insight to the teams I've gone for today.
Yeah. So we've got the same rules as always. 5 players, all have played for the same club. You get a guess on each player. If you do it on the first player you get 5 points. Second player, 4 points. All the way down to 1 point for the last and 5th player, or no points if you don't get it at all.
You've got 0 points before, haven't you?
I think we both must have got.
Nah, not me.
You don't reckon you have?
Not me.
Someone check the archives.
Roll the VAR.
Yeah. So yeah, we're trying not to repeat the same club, which may happen, but I think is like just a rule for making it, so that it's a bit different every time.
It is hard though, because you think of this player and then you research what the clubs they've played for, and you go, oh, they played for so and so. And that sticks in your head as well, and they're like, "Oh, did I use that club? No, that player played for that club, but I haven't used them in the quiz."
Yeah.
So I think it might be later on in the season, just going back and checking all the tapes and be like, "Have I used that club? No. Have I used that one? No. Yes. Oh, okay. No, not that one."
I feel like I'm not going to rule out if a club's been done before just yet, though, because I feel like the fact we can't really remember the score we did last week. I think us trying to remember the clubs we did like 8 weeks ago is not really much chance. So.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's get into it. I think it's me to go first this week, actually. You to give me the players first.
Yeah, if you want.
I don't want, but I'm just playing by the rules.
Yeah, go on. All right, so Toby, your first player for 5 points is Danny Graham.
Danny Graham, okay. I know 2 clubs that he's played for. One being Swansea and one being Sunderland. And I know we did do Sunderland recently, and I know I said we're not going to rule them out, but I'm pretty sure we did. But Swansea seems too obvious. But let's go for Swansea.
It's incorrect, but he did obviously play for Swansea.
Yeah.
Your second player for 4 points is Jake Livermore.
Jake Livermore, okay. So he's at United at the moment as like a player coach, I'm pretty sure.
Is he?
I'm pretty sure.
Oh God, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's like. Is it Jay Spearing at Liverpool? He's technically playing for Liverpool, but he plays for the under-23s. I think it's a similar thing.
Oh God, okay.
Jake Livermore. So he's been Hull, West Brom. I think. Did he also do Tottenham Livermore? I like Hull because Danny Graham's. Yeah, let's go for Hull.
It's incorrect.
Okay.
So your third player for 3 points is James Milner.
James Milner. Okay, I'm pretty sure I know James Milner's career. He's done Leeds. He's done Newcastle. He's done Villa. He's done City. And he's done Liverpool. And now Brighton. So Jake Livermore out of those. Leeds. Newcastle. What did I say? Leeds, Newcastle, Villa. City. Liverpool, Brighton. It's either going to be Leeds. Oh, it's going to be Leeds, Newcastle, or Villa, isn't it? Oh, this is tough, and I'm taking loads of time here.
Great podcast listening.
I don't think it's going to be Liverpool or City. I don't think it's going to be Brighton either. Leeds, Newcastle, or Villa. Danny Graham and Jake Livermore. Again, I said I'm not going to rule it out, but I feel like we definitely did. I definitely have done Newcastle. But that was quite early. Leeds. Could be Leeds. Yeah, Leeds.
It is correct.
Yes!
It's Leeds.
We'll take it.
Well done. Yeah, Danny Graham played for Leeds early on in his career. I don't know when. Jake Livermore went there on loan from Tottenham Hotspurs when they were in the Championship. Obviously, James Milner started his career there. My next player was going to be Robbie Fowler. So,
okay. That would have put it down to Leeds or Liverpool. So.
Yeah, but it could have been Man City as well. I thought maybe.
Oh, did he play for Man City, Fowler?
Yeah.
Nice. Didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure he did.
I could imagine that's the sort of move he would have had at the end of his
career. I hope he did now. I was a Liverpool fan. But yeah, well done. And the last one was Calvin Phillips.
Nice.
You cool. Obviously would have got.
I could have been Leeds and City again.
You could have been City.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, well done.
3 points.
You caught up now?
16 apiece.
16 apiece.
Yeah.
So just got to get one, Mev. That's all you got to do. Just get one.
Okay, so your first player for 5 points.
Mm-hmm.
David James.
Played in numerous clubs. I'm just going to go Portsmouth off the back.
It's not Portsmouth.
Yeah.
Your second player is Andy Cole.
Okay, so I researched Andy Cole for the Sunderland one.
Nice.
So he played for Sunderland. He also played for Newcastle, Man United. Where on earth did David James play? Because he's been a bit of a journeyman. David James also played at Man City. Did Andy Cole even play for Man City? I don't want to say City because it feels like an obscure one, and I can't remember where else David James played. I mean, Liverpool. No, did he? Yeah. But Andy Cole definitely didn't play at Liverpool. So I don't want to say City because that seems a bit rogue, and hopefully your next one will give me an idea. I've said Portsmouth. Oh, okay. I'm running out of options because Newcastle. Okay. I will say Man City actually. Yeah.
It's not Man City.
Okay. I don't think Andy Cole even played for Man City, but yeah.
I think he might have done.
Okay.
Your third player for 3 points is Yannick Bolasie.
Oh my God, Yannick Bolasie. I remember him. The winger who was most known for his time at Crystal Palace, but also did play for Everton.
As the kids say, the streets will never forget.
The streets will never forget. He did that skill where he tried to like scoop it up with his
arm. That was
arm.
against Lovren, wasn't it, at Liverpool?
Oh, maybe, I don't know. But he tried it a few times. I don't remember where else he played. Did Andy Cole play Crystal Palace? I can see that. Dave James played Crystal Palace. Maybe I can see that. I don't think they played for... I'm going to say Crystal Palace.
It's not Crystal Palace.
Oh dear. Just get the 1 point, Mev. That's all you need.
Your fourth player for 2 points is Tammy Abraham.
Okay. Tammy Abraham, obviously Chelsea. Roma. Oh, was Tammy Abraham on loan at Aston Villa? I think Andy Cole was there. Who was my third player? Yannick Bolasie. Yeah, Aston Villa.
It's not Aston
What?
Villa.
Oh,
Your
no.
fifth and final player
Oh, I'm missing a really obvious club.
is Bobby Decordova-Reid.
Bobby Decordova-Reid. The one who's now at Fulham. Was David James at Fulham? Was Andy Cole at Fulham? Oh, please, for the love of God. Was it Fulham?
It's not Fulham.
Oh, my God. Who was it?
So, I will list out what sort of years they played for these clubs. So, David James did 2010 to 2012. He played 81 games at 40 years old for this club. So, it was right at the end of his career. Andy Cole started there after he had a loan there from when he was Arsenal and also signed for them in 92-93.
For Arsenal?
Andy Cole started his career at Arsenal, apparently, yeah.
Oh, God. Okay, God. Jesus.
Yannick Bolasie was 2011-2012.
Hang on. Yannick Bolasie, 2011-2012. Who was he at before Crystal Palace?
Yeah, it's who they signed him from.
Who on earth did they sign? Was it a London-based team?
Do you want me to keep going? Tammy
yeah.
Abraham was on loan there in 16-17 from Chelsea. He had a really good season there. He's a bit of a cult hero at this club.
Villa. Hang on. Teams in the league. Tammy Abraham went on loan. Oh, this is poor.
And the last one is Bobby Decordova-Reid, who was there 2011 to 2018. They're one of their sort of most well-known players before he went to Fulham.
Who on earth was he at before Fulham?
A couple other players for this club that I almost put in was J. Emmanuel Thomas. He was at the club for a couple of years. Everton players there at the moment. Andreas Weimann, one of the top scorers in the club's history, actually, still there. 4th or 5th, I think, all time.
Well, Bristol City.
It's Bristol City.
I would never have got Bristol City.
I thought you would have got that being a Bristolian. I thought you would have recognised Bolasie. I thought Bolasie would have clicked,
Abraham, yeah.
Abraham had a really good seaon there. And then Decordova-Reid, he's like a bit of a Bristol legend.
Oh, God, yeah. I prefer Bristol Rovers anyway. It's fine. Oh, no.
Come on! 16-0.
God.
I thought that was quite an obscure club with some big names.
Yeah.
But I thought it wasn't too obscure, obviously, being in Bristol.
No, Bristol City didn't even cross my mind at all.
Championship spanner in the works.
Yeah, whatever. Back to the episode. But let's actually move on to Everton, because with Everton 1, Luton Town 2, And I know you were saying that, in the future, next weekend, if, Bournemouth are at home against Everton, that it might be better. But Everton have struggled at home so far this season. Yet to get a win, their first goal at Goodison Park. And Luton Town with their first win ever in the Premier League, getting 3 points, now out of the relegation zone as well. So, what did you make of it? I mean, I don't know which team to start with. Should we start with Luton? Because, first win in the Premier League history. Deserved?
I think it was. I think on the overall game, I think they did deserve it. They looked so dangerous from set pieces, and I think that's the first time I've been able to say this season that Luton have looked dangerous in any aspect of their game. And no disrespect to them, but I think it's taken them time to adapt. I think their first 4 or 5 games, I was really concerned for them. And I think now this is something that not only gives the fans and the club hope, but also the players that they do have the quality when they need to, even if it is against, on the day, Everton maybe not playing as well as they could. But yeah, they took a 2-0 lead in half an hour, which is almost a game over at that point. Lockyer getting one from the corner.
Yes.
Ashley Young's clearance, which he almost tackled him just on the line and got the goal. And then Carlton Morris also scoring on the half-hour mark. And overall on the play, it was that first half that really won it for Luton. Everton did start to come back. They had a lot more shots, but only 5 on target compared to Luton's 2. So a lot of them sort of outside the box, not being clinical, not being accurate. And I just wanted to touch on this because I found this really interesting looking into the stats in the game. And I like to talk a lot about XG and expected assists.
Do you?
And
never noticed that.
all of that stuff. And I just thought in this game, I first looked at it and it was Everton had an XG of 2.9. Whereas Luton only had an XG of 0.9. I think if you just see that and you just look at the raw numbers, you think, oh, Everton absolutely robbed, they should have won. But breaking it down and where XG does fall short, the first goal that Everton scored from Calvert-Lewin, there was 3 shots in that passage from play, almost all of them in the 6-yard box, and that entire goal with 3 shots added up to 1.7 XG. So if you take away that 0.7, it was a lot closer in terms of that. And that's just something that I think is interesting and something to sort of keep an eye out for myself when looking up stats going forward, and something I've probably learned from this weekend, that you can't just trust the raw numbers always that you see.
Yeah, sometimes the eye test does help as well. And I think from the eye test, I think that Everton defended really poorly in this game, which isn't something you'd typically say of a Sean Dyche team. I think even before Tommy Lockyer opened the scoring for Luton, there's warning signs before, because there's 2 corners ahead of time where one Lockyer is free and he somehow managed to head it over the bar, which I think for him and someone who's normally quite good with his headers was actually really a missed opportunity. And then the next corner comes in, and then this time Tommy Lockyer is blocking a few of the players, and Carlton Morris gets free and then gets a header, which I think is saved by Pickford.
I think it hit the bar and then hit him, didn't it?
No, sorry.
You're talking about before?
No, yeah. So he headed the ball onto goal, but then it hit James Tarkowski's
Oh, it
head,
did, yeah.
and then it just went flying off again after another corner, and he didn't know anything about it. And then the third time of asking, finally they get the ball in the back of the net, and I think Carlton Morris again wins the header, hits the crossbar, and it just hits Ashley Young, and he's trying to clear it, and you'd expect him to get there quicker, but maybe just an age thing showing for Ashley Young. But it was really bad defending, and for Carlton Morris's goal, the fact that the free kick was taken, and I think Mpanzu is blocking Mikalenko at the back post, and the fact that no one is right, who is the main threat in Luton Town side? It is Tommy Lockyer, who's already just scored, and it's Carlton Morris. Where is Carlton Morris? Unmarked at the back post, completely free. Ball goes there to him, and he just has an easy volley into the far corner past Pickford. And I just thought to myself, it is such poor defending by Everton, and you're not helping yourself because they're both incredibly unavoidable. So I just think to myself that Everton didn't really help themselves. And yes, they got more into the game as the second half went on, but they didn't really, like you said, have clear-cut chances despite the XG. So I really just don't have any sympathy for Everton because of the fact that they didn't help themselves, they didn't do the basics. What they did really well against Brentford last week, they just seem to forget this week at home. And I don't understand why this home thing is such an issue for Everton. Maybe because of the fact that they feel the pressure from their home fans, because they expect them to do better, to do all right, and now because they've signed a few decent players. I don't know what it is, but it's not good for Everton.
A lot of that might be the pressure. It's like I see sometimes when a team's playing badly, there's 2 types of pressure. There's either they're playing well and not getting the results, and I think that as a fan at the moment for Everton, that's their situation. They are playing quite well in a lot of their games, but not getting the goals, not getting the results is way more frustrating than if you know your team is bad and you know you're just not good enough. And you can go into a game with little hope, little expectation. And if you start well and things go well, the crowd are way more excited than if you start well and play well, because that has happened before and the results haven't come. And a lot of that is probably the same with Everton. Just really poor. But Luton also did play really well. I think Doty, their left wing back, had an amazing game. Yeah. He was their first time probably this season someone's really stood out maybe. He had 6 key passes this game, which is crazy. He was literally defending really well. He won 2 out of 2 of his aerial duels and 1 out of 3 of his ground duels. And he was just such a creative outlet for them. 5 out of 10 crosses as well. And that, I think maybe Luton, I'm not sure if it was before the game or during that game, after the first sort of 5-10 minutes, they thought that this is the time they can actually get their wing backs up. I think we expected that more from them this season, to get Kabore and Doughty really flying up the wings. And I think a lot of games they've been quite conservative and not allowed that, whereas they probably smelt blood with this Everton side in that first 10 minutes and thought, right, if that is possible, we're going to get you both up, because they are probably 2 of their best players in that side.
Yeah, I think Alfie Doughty was also incredibly impressive against Wolves last weekend as well. It's funny because you'd think Kabore would be the one who's going down more, creating more of the chances. But when Kabore goes down the right wing, his chances have an higher XG, higher XA as well. But Alfie Doughty, he'll kill you by numbers. Eventually, if you just give him time, he will put in the cross and then you will be punished. I think he's that kind of player. But, going forward, they're going to be super important for Luton, the wing-backs, and how they're going to score goals, because, there's not a lot of creativity in that midfield, and, it's only Cartermas up top, so... But impressive, 4 points so far. I think we've been saying that they needed to prove to themselves and to the rest of the league that, we deserve to be here. And I think they've done that now. So, next week against Spurs, difficult fixture, but they are at home, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, come on Luton.
Come on Luton. And come on Man United, because you cannot go another weekend without winning a game of football, because at this point now, 4 losses from 7, only 3 wins, and those 3 not being impressive. Now losing to Crystal Palace 1-0 at home as well. What's going on with Man United, Topes?
Worst league start in 34 years. I think that's the thing that we heard a lot this weekend.
Yeah, I've got that written down as well.
I feel like that's something we heard a lot at like the start of the post-Fergie era. I felt like we heard that a lot of time because of how good Man United were at that time. It was sort of, this is their worst league start since 2008 or 2007. I don't know the years, obviously, because United won so many titles. But 34 years, that's all the way back to the 90s. Even further than that, I think it's 89, isn't it? It would be.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure where exactly it's going wrong. I mean, Amrabat playing left back, I feel like, is due to their injuries, and somewhere where he's actually looked pretty decent. I think in the last 2 games he's played at left back, not as in being the left back, but in passages of play where he's been able to be a bit more expansive and come forward. They've got Palestri on the right wing, who didn't really have too much impact on this game.
Have some puffs, but doesn't have the quality at the moment in time, does he?
Yeah, and I'm not sure where it's going wrong. They're keeping the ball well, 77% possession, and I think a lot of it probably is that final killer pass that they're missing. I think Casemiro's probably been one of their most creative players this season, and that he shouldn't, as good as he can be, and he is good enough to do that, that shouldn't be his role, and it's not where he shines. He shines sitting back way further and pulling the strings from a little deeper, as opposed to sort of coming up and having to make it. I think maybe there's just not a click in that sort of attacking unit yet of Bruno, Rashford and Højlund. They have some really good interchanges, and Højlund has looked good, but I'm not sure. They're just not creating high enough quality chances to get goals and win games. And also they're not defending well enough either, really. I mean, I think Palace had some good chances this game. Anderson scored an absolute banger. But yeah, it's just not clicking across the whole pitch, really, for United at the moment.
I tell you what, this is what I've come to the conclusion with Man United, and it's that I don't know what their strengths are. Because if you look at Liverpool and Tottenham Hotspurs, the defense isn't great. They can see chances, but they will try and outscore you at any cost. With Man United, they've got deficiencies in every department of the pitch, and I don't know that if they were to try and win a game, how would they win the game? Would they try and outscore you? Would they try and win 1-0? How would they try and do it? I'm guessing it would be try and be defending deep and then going on the counter attack and trying to win 1-0 like they did against Burnley last weekend. But they can't defend well. The midfield gets overrun and they can't score goals. They've only scored 7 goals in 7 games, 3 against Nottingham Forest. So it's not looking good at the moment. And like I said, I don't know how they're going to try and fix it. I mean, maybe we've heard reports that Anthony's going to be back in training now, and then he's going to be picked for selection until any news develops on this off-field situation. Make of that what you will. Højlund, did well against Bayern Munich in the Champions League, but hasn't quite hit it off in the league yet. Bruno Fernandes hasn't quite got his passing ranges yet. Marcus Rashford looks poor and loses the ball lots of times. The right wing, they don't have anyone. They've got injuries everywhere, and the players who are there aren't playing well enough. And the off the field issue doesn't help. Discourse between the top and the bottom of the club doesn't help either. Just not a good time to be a Man United fan. And I think, I don't know how it changes really. I don't think Erik ten Hag knows how it changes either.
I think at the start of the season we were saying they were almost sort of could secure top 4 fairly comfortably with the squad that they have and the way that they were playing last season, and a manager as experienced and as sort of high performing as Ten Hag. But I think with the injuries, it's really not helping, like you've said, and it's just a lot of average performances almost across the whole pitch. It's not one player, it's not sort of one thing that they're doing that you can change. It's like you've said, in every area there is something that's just not quite right, and it's not awful either, which makes it more difficult, not for just us to see, but probably for the players and the club to see as well at the moment.
I will disagree. I think it is awful. I think it's horrible to watch Man United play football. I think that the big issue for me last year, even though they did really well, was what was the style of play? What was Erik ten Hag trying to implement? And it seemed to be maybe a bit along the lines of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer of defend deep and counter-attack. And it works in big games, and that's fine if you want to do that in big games. But how are you going to break a team down, which are lower down in the league, who are just going to defend deep and try and get you out? Against Palace were all over them. When Man United got in the final third, defensively, they were an absolute unit, pressing, filling in spaces where it was left by other players. They were getting to the first ball, getting to the second ball. Man United just didn't seem to want it. And I think that's my issue is I don't know how they're going to try and score goals, apart from hit the team on the counter-attack with Marcus Rashford. What's plan B? How are they going to try and break a low block down? I just don't see it. I think it's a bit early to be asking questions of Erik ten Hag in terms of should he be fired or should he stay. But it is worrying. It's not good because Mason Mount just come back, which is a good thing for them. But in terms of creative players, is it just Anthony? I mean, Eriksen's there, Bruno's there, Mount's there. They're all fit at this moment in time. Rashford's fit, Garnacho's fit. It's only really Sancho because of his off-field decisions, but they've got no one in the attacking areas to come back, and they can't score at home.
Yeah, there's no fear against United at the moment either. I think a lot of teams are seeing that and are able to sort of go at them a lot more and are able to defend them a lot easier than we have seen in past seasons. It's like I've said with Chelsea, it's starting to become a team where this season anyway, that teams aren't looking forward in the calendar and being worried and really sort of preparing on how to stop them. I think more teams are sort of preparing how to beat them. And I think that's when it starts to get worrying, when a club has that image, and a club of that size especially.
Yeah, well, credit to Crystal Palace, because I saw a stat that Roy Hodgson's last 5 visits to Old Trafford, he has not lost a single game. And I think it was 1-3 and drawn 2, or he might have won 2 and drawn 3, but hasn't lost a game in his last 5, which is in the league, because they got hammered in the League Cup against Man United. Nice, yeah. Which is really, really impressive. And like I said, Anderson with a fantastic goal. Their squad looks really good. They didn't have Alton Edouard, he was at injured. Mateta came in, did alright, pressed really well. He didn't get many chances. But I think, Crystal Palace maybe they could be pushing toward the top 10. I don't think they'll be fighting for Europe. I think they could probably sneak in 9 or 10th, but they look really good so far.
Yeah, playing really well, especially their defence so far this season has been really impressive. Gahey, Anderson and Johnston have all had brilliant seasons so far, I think. I think they've got a really consistent starting 11, like you've said. Edouard missing out. And I think they can keep it up, keep it going, and they are a solid team.
Unlike Burnley, who have lost... You got to love these transitions. Unlike Burnley, who lost 2-0 away to Newcastle United, Burnley still without a win. Newcastle finally finding some form, getting some goals, keeping clean sheets, all around playing really well. What did you make of Newcastle this game?
Yeah, it was another performance. I said the same for Arsenal against Bournemouth. I think this was the case with Newcastle. Fairly easy. Didn't seem to sort of have to step up and really go for it a lot of the time. It was a bit of a walk in the park for Newcastle at times. They were happy to let Burnley have the ball. They didn't really sense any danger a lot of the time. And I think when you have that, a lot of players can play comfortably, play without fear. Sort of Anthony Gordon, Almiron, Isaac all had good games without fear, which is a big thing for forwards. The only thing I can say probably positive about Burnley maybe in this game is that Trafford, I think, had a really good game. He made 6 saves. It's probably kept that score lower than it could have been. And I also think Burnley actually probably could have and should have gone 1-0 up at the start of the game.
They should have.
And Dooney had a really good chance after Colioso. That's I can't remember.
I was repeating the commentary of just his name, like Colioso.
Yeah. He had a really nice move, played it across, and then Dooney should have scored.
Yeah, Dan Burn slipped for that, and it's like, oh, here we go.
He should have gone 1-0 up, and I think that's something that we haven't seen really from Burnley much this season, is getting an early lead, and I think that suits their game plan and their style of getting the early lead, then maybe sitting back and then using their progressive football in transition, I think is going to suit them a lot more, and that's something that we could have seen, but unfortunately we didn't, because then Almiron went up the other end and scored an absolute worldie.
Yeah, because who was it that got dispossessed? Was it Ramsey?
It was Ramsey.
Yeah,
it was Trippier tackled Ramsey.
I just thought that was... He spent a bit too long on the ball. Trippier just came in and just took it off him, and they're just like... Newcastle were absolutely ruthless. Almiron with a strike. And that goal just shows how ruthless the Premier League can be for Burnley, because you should go 1-0 up. You don't. And then, you lose the ball after taking a split second too long on it. And then Almiron takes a strike from distance and scores in the top bins, where all you have to do is step out just a little bit more, but really the defence don't do anything too wrong. And that just goes to show the quality that Newcastle have against a solid Burnley, who just don't have it at this moment in time. They really, really need to start converting some of these chances. Maybe it's time to take Amdouni out of the starting 11, or do you persist with him? I'm not sure. I mean, it's up to Vincent Kompany. He sees him week in, week out in training. If he's so his confidence and he's ready to go again, then I think you do start him, because missed that 1-on-1 this week, hit the post against Man United last week. They're getting closer, but it's not quite working out just yet. But they also don't seem to be helping themselves either, because for that second goal, Alderkiel completely mistimes his jump, passes it straight down to Gordon, who runs past him, and then Alderkiel is a bit too eager to try and make up for his mistake, takes down Gordon. For me, was a Stonewall pen, and then Isaac converts it to make it 2-0.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I think that's the issue we have seeing all the games week in, week out. It feels like we're saying the same thing again and again. Eventually, things will turn for Burnley, I do believe, but at this moment in time, it's just not happening.
Yeah, and I think it's like we were saying with Van Dooney, his finishing has been poor, and he's missed a few chances, could have got a few goals. But then there's parts of his game that look really good. He does look dangerous when he's on the ball. He's a confident carrier. His movement is really good. And he's just missing a few aspects of his game that is kind of costing Burnley at the moment.
Yeah.
Newcastle got a big fixture this week. PSG
at home.
That is
a tasty fixture.
Very, very exciting. Mbappe is definitely going to be pocketed by Dan Burn. There's no question.
Mbappe versus Dan Burn.
Who would have thought?
To be fair, I mean, like, when did Dan Burn sign? Was it in January? Or was it the January before?
I'm not sure.
Has it been 18 months since Dan Burn's been in Newcastle?
I think it's been at least that, yeah. It must have been now.
Well, who would have thought that when he made the move from Brighton, that, going back to his boyhood club, he'd be playing against Mbappe.
Crazy.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that fixture. Score predictions for that game?
Ooh. PSG, I think they've looked okay this season. They've had a lot of changes, but I think they're probably still going to be a bit too much for Newcastle. I think it's going to be 2-0 to PSG.
Okay, I'm going to go 2-1. I think at home they will get 1 goal Newcastle.
Yeah, I was going to go 2-1, but Champions League I feel I can see PSG getting an early goal, sort of sitting back a bit and then getting one late.
Yeah, I mean, especially after Newcastle got dominated by AC Milan. But they still could have won a 1-0 right at the end, so you never know. Okay, then moving on to the penultimate fixture of the weekend. West Ham 2, Sheffield United 0. And similar to Burnley, Sheffield United, on the back of that 8-0 loss to Newcastle United, they didn't really press again either, did they?
No, it was a really poor first half from Sheffield United. Gave West Ham way too much space, way too much time in dangerous areas. And it was quite an easy first half for West Ham, I thought, to be honest. Bowen getting a goal and Souček getting the second. A little shout out to Vladimir Kufal. I think he's been really, really good the last few games. He got another assist. It's his third in a row in the Prem. He's really being sort of the more adventurous of the fullbacks. Emerson actually is also the same. He's been getting really high when needed to. And I think it was in that first half that West Ham's press and getting those fullbacks really high that put the pressure on Sheffield, and they enabled them to get a 2-goal lead. And I think when you get a 2-goal lead at home going into half-time, it's almost game over then. But fair play to Sheffield United. They did actually come back a bit in the second half, I thought.
Well, maybe a bit. I mean, I think Ollie McBurney had 2 chances. I think it was in the... Was it in the first half? I think he had that chance where he just shoots wide, and then in the second half he had that chance from the long throw, which went just wide of the post as well. But to be fair, Sheffield United aren't clinical enough, and against a side like West Ham, who are really good actually, and I think are low-key going under the radar because they're right up there in the league, outside the top 4 places. Doing really well in the Europa League as well. A squad, who are fighting for the manager, know how to play. First 11 who are really good, and depth as well. Because if you think about the fact that Maverick Parnas signed from Stuttgart, and has he played yet? He might have played in the Europa League, but he hasn't played in the league yet because Zuma and Aguirre are just there, fit, available, and you just can't get past them. And I think if you look at the forward options as well, Bowen has been really well so far this year. I think 4 or maybe 5 goals in the league this season. I think his first one at home at the London Stadium. I think Kudus hasn't even been able to manage to get any real minutes on the pitch because the likes of Bowen, Benrahma, Paqueta have just been doing really well, especially that midfield 3. I mean, I think there's a lot to be really excited about at West Ham. I think the fact that they were kind of gifted the first few goals. I mean, like you said, Kufal, but then also a Souček goal were just a bad pass by Hamer, and then Emerson latches onto it, passes it to Antonio, and then Souček just glided past Fordingham in goal. But I mean,
it was too little, too late. By the time it was half time, and Sheffield United had to come back into the game.
Yeah, they really just need to go 1-0 up and just not be playing Man City when that happens.
Yeah,
because if that happens, then maybe they get something out of the game. But I don't know. I think that's another manager in Paul Heckingbottom who might be on the chopping block soon with the international break coming up.
It's possible.
It's possible.
I just wanted to say quickly as well, when we were talking about West Ham, obviously mentioning all those players who've been playing really well, there's one name that I think has probably, for me, been one of the players of the season so far in the Prem.
Hang on. Ward-Prowse.
I think he has been exceptional. I really wasn't too sure about that signing. I know when Southampton got relegated, he was going to stay in the Prem, but I wasn't sure who it was going to be a part of. I wasn't sure if West Ham trying to sort of press on in Europe and move up the league table, if Ward-Prowse was the right sort of player. I was worried that he wasn't mobile enough, that maybe he would be a bit too sort of negative, too heavily reliant on set pieces. But he's been playing a lot, quite a bit higher actually this season, and I think he has just been absolutely amazing. I don't think he's had enough credit given to him. I think he's been the signing of the season. I think he's been one of the players of the season. And I'm just going to read out a few of these stats. And this is insane that this is from one game. He had 1.1 expected assists, 95% pass accuracy, 6 out of 9 crosses, 2 out of 2 long passes, 2 tackles, an interception, 6 key passes, 2 shots on target, and 3 out of 4 for all duels, ground and aerial. That is for me, an absolutely complete performance from a player who I think we talk about in terms of free kicks, and maybe I was a bit naive in thinking that's maybe all he had in his game. But for me, he has been absolutely amazing. I just wanted to give him a shout out and hope that he carries it on and that West Ham carry it on as well.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, even as a Liverpool fan, I'm so surprised that the fact that Jordan Henderson is getting the England side ahead of Ward-Prowse, because, like you said, I think he's been phenomenal. Hopefully, by the time the Euros come around, that he can force his way into that side, because he thoroughly deserves it.
At the moment, for me, he could be a starter for England, and I wouldn't complain.
No chance.
I'm not saying he will be, or that maybe he fits England at all. But I'm saying the way that he is playing, I think to start for England would not be undeserved. I don't think he will, or that he should in terms of the play, but I think the way he's been playing, he deserves as much credit. And I think the biggest credit you can obviously get is starting for England.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that midfield of Rice, Bellingham, and say Maddison, I think that's three that everyone would like to see at the moment in time, or maybe a Foden in there. But I think he's probably one of the first options off the bench in that midfield if one of those were to need a rest or to be taken off or be injured. I think he's been fantastic so far, and I don't know why Kawasaki doesn't pick him. I don't know what it is. Well, I do know what it is. He's incompetent. But but yeah, moving on to the final game of Sunday. What a super Sunday it was. Just the one fixture and the last one on the podcast this week.
Why have they done that this Sunday?
I don't know.
There were so many Saturday games and one Sunday game?
I have no idea.
Was it because of the Champions League being on Tuesday, teams playing on Tuesday, and then? I
mean, they could have had Liverpool Spurs on the Sunday,
because there was Carabao Cup as well, wasn't there, on the midweek? So it was strange.
It was strange. I'm trying to think of what game. I mean, they could have had. I don't know. I'm trying to think.
Just even one any of the games. It just felt weird.
Everton,
there was
Luton.
only one Sunday game. I feel like, and it was the weekend before we had 5, didn't we?
Yeah. That is strange. And to be fair, it wasn't it was kind of exciting. Nottingham Forest won, Brentford won. It was all right. How many notes do you have? How many notes do you have for that?
I have one note.
What is it? Nicardo should have been sent off.
It was for the Dominguez goal.
Oh yeah, what about it?
I don't really know what Flecken was doing. It was
weird.
weird.
He pulled his hand away from it.
Yeah, I think he definitely thought it was going over, and he didn't really seem that devastated after it went. I think he tried to play it off like he tried to save it afterwards. It wasn't like he was like head in hands. He's like kind of did it and then sort of carried on. It was weird.
Yeah, it was kind of like, oh, I messed up, but I'm gonna pretend as if like I haven't. And it was kind of like, oh, how do I react to this? And I think like moments later, then he was kind of like a bit upset with his defense. But yeah, it was weird. It was
really weird.
I do have some notes. I thought Matt Turner was not great in this game. He even came out after the game and said he wasn't that great. The fact that he should have maybe saved the first goal from Norgard, the header, especially after Niakate got sent off. And I think I saw Steve Cooper come out after the game saying, oh, the referee needed help. I can't believe they said Niakate off. The first one, fair enough. The second one, not. I thought the second one could have been a red card on its own. The fact that he just stamped on the back of the Brentford player. I know it's unintentional, but Curtis Jones wasn't unintentional, but it still hit him in a really bad place. And he just gone down his calf onto his ankle. And I thought that was a very strange statement to make, because I think Niakate should have been sent off for the 2 years. I think they were both clear as day. And I thought that I do worry a bit for Brentford because of the fact that they had 2 very impressive performances earlier in the season. The 2 to draw against Tottenham at home, and then also to go away to Fulham and beat them 3-0. But since then, they haven't won a game, and it's been really, really frustrating to watch as someone who has both Wisa and Mbeumo in his fantasy football team. Both are getting the kick out and being booted out of my team. But yeah, it's just, and fair play to Nottingham Forest to come back into it. Like you said, the cross from Toffolo to Dominguez, who did get the goal in the end. If that ball was any more to the left or the right, I do think that, I think Flecken does maybe get a better idea of it and does save it. But, I think 1-1 was fair on the day, probably.
Yeah, I think so. I think Forest are probably a team who are performing better than we expected this season, probably. I think they've played really well. I'm not sure exactly where they are in the league. They're 11th at the moment. The record of 2-2-3, I think, is pretty decent. I think I maybe would have thought they would have struggled a little bit in a few games. And Brentford probably performing a bit worse than maybe we would have expected.
Near the relegation zone, aren't they?
They're on 7 points. They've only won 1 game all season, but drawn 4. So quite a few points from draws, really.
Missing Ivan Toney to convert some of those chances.
Possibly. There's rumours of him leaving in January.
Yeah.
Big rumours. I know we get it every window, but it seems very early for there to be rumours like that. So there must be some decent reason why we're talking about it now.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that even Thomas Frank went on Monday Night Football and he mentioned it, and he was like, well, we know there can be offers, but it has to be when we're happy and when there's the right price, as if you're admitting the fact that, you're happy for him to leave. I think he's back in training already. I think he'll be match fit. Well, he'll be fit. I'm not sure if he's going to be match fit. I don't know how you get match fit when you can't play matches. But come January, Chelsea, Arsenal, we'll see. There could be someone who wants him.
Yeah, it would be a big move, and he'll be a great asset for any team, really.
Yeah.
Speaking of Chelsea, they are playing tonight away at Fulham. I've just seen their lineup because I wanted to see. They've got so many injuries, so many suspensions, and it's pretty actually what you probably expect. Cucurella's playing left back, Disasi in right back, Colwill and Silva partnering in centre back. Probably, I imagine, is what it's going to be, unless it's Colwill at left back, Cucurella at right back.
No.
It could be.
Who's the midfield?
Gallagher, Caicedo, Mudryk, Fernandes, Cole Palmer, and Broja is starting up front with Sterling on the bench.
And the Fulham lineup, because we are impartial.
Leno, Castagna, Diop, Ream, Robinson, Reed, Palhinha, Pereira, Wilson, Jimenez, Willian. So
Jimenez again.
What you probably would expect from Fulham.
No,
maybe Bessart.
He should be starting Vinicius.
Yeah.
I don't understand why he's not starting Vinicius more. I think he deserves the chance. I know Jimenez has been a fantastic striker for so many years, but I think Vinicius deserves the chances that Jimenez has been getting. I don't understand why he hasn't. That's me.
Score prediction?
Fulham 1, Chelsea 0.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 1-0 or 1-1.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 1-1 Jimenez goal just because you slagged him off. Not that I think he actually will score. Jimenez with a goal, and I think also Mudryk with a goal.
No,
just to throw a spanner in the works. Just so that I can do some weird predictions and then they'll be right and I'll be, yes, I said that.
But what do you think about Tuesday night as well? I mean, the game week still isn't over. Luton Town versus Burnley, the rearranged fixture from game week 2. Predictions for that one?
Another 1-1 draw.
Oh, God. I'm going to Luton. Do you know what? Because these two teams played in the Championship and they know each other and how they play, I'm going to Luton 3, Burnley 2.
Oh, now that's a super Tuesday.
I'm not going to be watching Newcastle PSG. It's going to be Luton Town versus Burnley. And that's the game to be watching on Tuesday night, let me tell you. I think that's it, isn't it?
It is.
Lovely. Well, thank you everyone for watching the Football Fellowship podcast. I think this makes it our 10th episode.
It does. We've hit double digits.
Thank you for everyone who's been supporting us so far. If you're watching us on YouTube, please make sure to give us a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you're listening to us on Spotify, please give us 5 stars and respond to our feedback form.
Do we have a feedback form?
We have a feedback form.
Oh, on Spotify.
Have you never...
it's that Q&A thing, that question you get.
But it's a generic one.
It's like, what did you like about today's episode?
Yeah, we should probably change that.
I thought there was going to be like a Microsoft form, like I had loads of questions.
No.
That'd be cool.
Who do you prefer, Mev or Toby?
Yeah.
Out of 5 stars.
How was your service today with Mev?
Yeah. Oh God, I'm butchering this ending. Let's just end the podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Cheers.